What's up, cyberspace cadets? It's Thursday. You know what that means? It's time for Hot Takes. And this week it's Hot Takes True Crime, and we're looking at the staircase with Big Fat Brian. How you doing today, brother?
Oh, yeah! I'm doing pretty good.
What's up, cyberspace cadets? It's Thursday. You know what that means?
I got you.
You did, man. And these new headphones, man, just blew my brains out.
Fuck. I'm sorry, man.
But they're so good, they're actually holding them in place. That's how goddamn good they are. So, anyway.
That's awesome.
That's right. So, we are here to talk about I don't know, man. It was an arduous task. 13 episodes, just under 13 hours. I think each episode was right at 53 to 57 minutes.
Yeah.
Between 53 and 57 minutes each. And it was the most in-depth, painstaking documentary I think I've ever seen.
It left you speechless.
Well, no, what it did was it highlighted for me the epitome of what reality TV had become at that point in time.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? Because that was at the point where Court TV had Nancy Grace on every night talking about Top Mom, and, you know, she'd thrown her away like she was trash and shit.
Yeah, well, you know, one thing about Court TV is that I remember as I was in high school, or, well, a little bit before high school, when that was really big, you know, early thousands, that was really just a huge channel.
Exactly.
And I remember sitting there, you know, staying home from school sick and watching it and thinking to myself, wow, these people are really biased about everything they do.
Well, yeah, exactly, man. And there was this one bitch that was especially on Nancy Grace, man, and she would get everything fucking wrong, man.
Everything, dude.
I mean, it was, you know which one I'm talking about? Her name was Jean something, and she was like, I think
she had blonde hair, right?
No, she was a brunette, and she was like really thin, and she looked like she might have had a hearing problem or something. Yeah. Because, I mean, she would come out, and it would be like, what the fuck is she talking about? It's not even English. You know what it sounds like she's saying? Shit, it's crazy. We'll say hey to Sir Adamantine out there. What's up, man?
What up, Addy?
And getting his blessing early on in the broadcast is a good thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know that's right. So this covers an incident that happened in 2001. You talk about the turn of the century, or the turn of the millennium, actually. So we had the death of a lady. Her name was Kathleen Peterson. She was a bigwig at Nortel, which was a prime cell phone carrier at that point. They're based out of Quebec, Canada, and they were like the Canadian version of AT&T. Had actually when the Bell broke up, Nortel became it was Bell Canada, and then they changed their name. So.
The lovely early thousands era of cell phones with Singular and
oh god,
and
there
was
so many different ones, man. And you know they had the little antennas on them and shit.
The ones that would only work in your city, but not in the city next to you.
and those damn roaming charges, man.
Oh, you're telling 25 cents per text message? Are you fucking kidding me? My mom, because we had a family plan, right? My mom, did you text message somebody 83 times? And I'm like, no, why? Well, I've got to talk to your sister because she owes me $200.
Your sister did it. We're gonna move us in here to where there's a better. At the last minute, change the.
I'm getting some buffering, Irate. Yeah, I'll refresh and see maybe that's a problem. Oh, there we go. We're live.
Okay. Yeah, just I'm looking at it. It's looking okay on this side, but
Okay, that was just me then, I guess.
yeah, whatever. So all right. So she is found dead at the bottom of a staircase, and there's blood everywhere. The cops get there, and they jump to the immediate conclusion that the husband did it with a phantom-like implement that her sister says that she gave him for Christmas, but they couldn't find it, right? So this magical thing called a blowpoke, right?
Well, yeah. So first off, I'm thinking a blowpoke. That sounds like something you buy off an infomercial. Are these? Is this something like? Because that blowpoke theory and everything. It was pretty. It was pretty solid, man. You know.
Yeah. Here's a blowpoke, man. Is actually a medieval design, and it's basically a long poker that's hollow in the middle, and it has two air holes where the little hook is, and you blow through it to get to oxygenate the fire. Right?
Yeah.
It was like to replace the bellows because there were so many problems. People didn't, were catching their bellows on fire and shit, I guess. I don't know. But so, it was one of those things. And supposedly the sister gave a set of these out to all the sisters. And so that had to have been the implement that did this, even though they couldn't find it. And we find out later that they actually had found it, and the cops that found it, they found it and they put it back because there was no blood or nothing on it.
Yeah, and they had photographed it too.
Yeah.
So
well, and we have this thing in America called discovery, and what that means is that every bit of information that each side has, they have to give it to the other side.
Yeah.
All right, and it's for a fair trial, right? Well, that picture evidently got left out.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. So, I mean, with this whole case, you have to start out with the fact that Michael Peterson had written multiple articles about the police department in his area.
And he ran for mayor like 2 years before that.
Yeah, so he's already pissed off everyone he possibly could.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And and it's interesting that they never brought that into light, because it seemed like to me okay, there's definitely he ran for mayor, and I'm going, well, hold on, why don't we look more into that? Because that mayoral race, there obviously had to have been something that happened, because he didn't get elected, and he went on this. What do they say? He was going, as a vet, and actually there were things in his war record that weren't accurate that he was presenting.
Well, yeah. So he did mention that, and he also said that he was sorry. So I guess he had apologized about that, because somebody called him out about that prior to this. When it came to writing his book, somebody said that he had not done that somebody else had.
Right.
So that was something that while he may have lied a little bit, I can see why they didn't put it in the forefront of this documentary. Because, everyone lies a little bit in a book about themselves,
Yeah, I guess, man. I don't know. I thought that there was, and in the first 8 episodes, all right, the first version of this came out in 2003, I think, or after the verdict, right? And it was 8 episodes, and it pretty much details, the lead up to the trial, and of course the end, where it ends with the verdict, right, and him being taken away. Right, and so, and then I think it was, let's see, in 2000, 11 or 12, they put out 2 more episodes. And then this year on Netflix, they released 11 through 13. So it was January the 30th, 2013. My bad. I have it written down here. An interesting thing, and it's just a weird little detail at the beginning the first episode. Mike Nifong, who was the prosecutor in the Duke lacrosse debacle, he was part of that whole DA, that whole DA office. He was an assistant at that point in time, and the DA that prosecuted the case against Peterson, he ends up becoming a judge, and I think that's when Nifong took over as the DA. And of course, we know what happened with the Duke lacrosse thing. That was a huge mess. He had lied. He said, there was evidence that wasn't there. There was all this kind of shit. So,
well, and I did a little bit of research on some of these guys that were involved in the case. Not, obviously not Michael Peterson, and they've all gone on to have very, very successful careers, which is really weird.
Except the blood spatter guy.
Well,
who will come back to?
he's still. I mean, he's infamous now, but he's still.
He was pretty high. He was high in the SBI, I think, when he was finally. But I think we're jumping ahead of ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I mean, there were so many leaps you could tell that the fucking prosecution was making with some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then there was some weird shit like what's coming up on the screen now that I'm looking at, or actually it's the one that's showing is the teacher that was showing him how to act more natural and not so stiff or like rehearsed, right?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of deal with the cameras in that first 8 episodes, where I could tell that the family, it seemed like to me that they were like really like faking it up, man. I mean, they were like, I don't know, it just didn't seem like they were being realistic. You know what I'm saying? They weren't reacting.
Well, okay, so I totally agree with the son, the eldest son.
Him especially.
And especially him, yeah, and the youngest daughter. But I think the one with the big nose, the middle daughter.
Yeah, the one that like it ends up with all the weird hair, fucking shit throughout the whole thing. Yeah,
yeah. I think she was honestly, like she, whether or not her dad had done something, she didn't care. You could tell.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, so she was just, she was just on his side 100%.
Well, and the deal is that these 2 daughters were people that he took on as his own fucking children when he was in the Army. He was a captain at this point in the 80s, right? Mm-hmm. And his best friend, they lived next door to each other even, right? And his best friend went to Grenada, and he was killed in the Grenada invasion. Thank you, Ronald Reagan. And so the families became tighter. It was his first wife, his 2 sons, and then the lady whose name is I want to say Ratliff, if I'm not mistaken, and her 2 daughters. One was in the 2s, and then the other one was just at a year old. Because they're just about a year and a half, almost 2 years apart. Yeah. And then it comes out later that she died in a similar situation. That it sounded like to me is that she had an aneurysm and she had to happen to be like on a staircase or at the top of a staircase when it happened, and she ended up at the bottom of the stairs, right?
Yeah, It didn't, the way that it sounded from every point of view.
It's modus operandi.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, it clearly didn't. It totally sounded like she definitely was already. She had a headache the day before. She had mentioned that she felt dizzy and stuff like that, and then she falls, and they determined that it was what was it, frontal lobe hemorrhage or something like that.
Yeah, it was definitely because they pulled spinal fluid at the scene of the accident, and there was blood in the spinal fluid, and that indicated, that's the only way that blood can get in that fluid. That fluid
because blood-brain barrier.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Even if somebody got their brains blown out, their spinal tap should come out clear. It's just
or close to it,
pretty much. So. It's interesting that this comes out in North Carolina, and the lead, the attorney goes, you just got yourself a more interesting movie to the film crew, which I thought was interesting, and so.
If you did mute, then I will just tell the audience you just
don't blah 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 blah. Anyway, and so, all right. So this dude has got a shitload of money. I mean, his wife was a big wig at Nortel. He is a successfully published writer,
a best-selling author.
Yeah, like along the lines of Tom Clancy.
Yes, yeah. I mean, also this is back in the days when an author actually meant you made money.
Yeah, exactly right. They didn't have to self-publish and shit.
Exactly,
and it was easy to get published through the business, right? You didn't have to,
as long as you sort of knew someone.
Exactly, you didn't have to be so politically charged and shit. Now
Mm-hmm.
Shit.
The thing about him being a published author is that automatically sort of turns people against you and people towards you at the same time.
Right.
So you've got people who are fans of your work, and then you have other people that are sort of just envious of how well you're doing, especially as an author, because you have notoriety.
Yeah, and from a prosecutional standpoint, this is buck fever. This is the equivalent of buck fever. This dude is rich. He's a rich man. He represents everything, about life that people that are of less means, kind of either they desire it or they resent it. Because it's like that song "Money for Nothing and Your Chicks for Free" kind of thing. It always plays well to the common man to see a rich white male get his comeuppance, right, if he's guilty, and I think that's where they were coming from, man. This was a big take for them.
Well,
go ahead.
They did take it a step further, because they went ahead and said, we're just going to pretend that he is guilty already.
No, exactly, man. No, they went with all the science, even, man. They went with the results that they had, and they went backwards to try to reproduce those results.
Yeah,
which is the exact opposite of science.
Well, I mean, so here's the thing. If you have two theories, right? You have two major theories, then I can understand starting from the point of, did this person get beat in the back of the head? Right. Because that makes sense. And then also you test your other theory, and that's they didn't do that.
No,
they didn't test anything else.
No, and what's interesting is that as this thing goes along, it's like I didn't have much sympathy for the dude when this thing starts out. All right, because he comes across, it's like there's a scene where he's like smoking his pipe, and he's writing out this thing from this book, and he's reading an excerpt from it, and it just sounds pretentious as fuck.
Well, not just that, but he looks like an evil villain. Like
and he's like he has no emotions at all, like a fucking snake. You know.
Well, like, and that's I love this quote from, I think it's episode 2 or 3, where they're getting ready to go into court, right? And he's like, shave your eyebrows. Because they looked like horns. They looked like he had literal horns on his face.
You told him to trim his eyebrows. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Because, you need to get a haircut, bye-bye, and then trim those damn eyebrows because they look like devil horns.
Yes.
And I was like, holy shit, that is so weird. But it makes perfect sense, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because of the way... and I talked about the family, the way that the daughters and the sons, so they all corral around them. And then Kathleen, the victim in this, her daughter Caitlin, by her first marriage, she separates from the family, and she goes off with her 2 aunts. Or 3 aunts. There's either 2 or 3 of them. I only saw 2 though. 2 that were the main ones. And they got to a point of where they were just positive that this dude was guilty because of this these extraneous circumstances and shit that happened, like the accident in Germany. That should have never come in. That should have never been allowed as any kind of presidential. What are they going to imply? That he's a serial killer and and stairs are his trigger? Right. Think about that. That is fucking ridiculous, man. And it doesn't fall with any kind of of idea of a pattern of a serial killer, man. That ain't how that shit works. And they that. They knew that shit.
Irate, you're missing out on this whole theory, Irate, because what it was really the entire time was that he has been just preying on women over the years. He'll stand at the top of a staircase and he'll watch as he's buttered the handle, and he just watches them grab it while drunk, and then they fall and they die, and he's like, "Haha, got another one." It only worked twice, but he's tried like 60 times.
The staircase killer.
So why don't we, why don't we start?
Go ahead. No, please.
Oh, why don't we start with the circumstantial evidence that the defense used? Because I think that's probably the biggest hint that they don't really have a fucking case at all.
Right.
Which is they use the fact that his first wife had died 20 years prior, and it was ruled an accident by the German police. Right.
Right.
But the German police had done a spectacular job on their report.
Yep.
Spectacular. Like, we're talking. They did all the tests you're supposed to do. They wore gloves. They were using advanced techniques that we were not using at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they determined this was clearly an accident. Have a nice day,
Right.
And that still got brought into their case. Which I don't know how you are able to bring in a case that somebody else has been essentially, dismissed.
Look, here's the deal, man. These guys have been playing football a certain way. They've been playing dirty for years, right? And and all this shit was, I'm sure that the judge was part of the prosecution, team at some point,
Oh no, they definitely knew each other because
exactly, man. That's my point. Is that this was all fucking just, this is the way they did shit.
Yeah.
It was.
No. So you know how you learn later on in the series that what's his name, Hardin becomes judge, right?
Exactly.
You don't just become a judge. You have to know people to become a judge. You have to know other judges.
Well, I don't know if they have to, see, in Alabama we vote for judges. Think about
we do it here too.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm not sure about North Carolina. I'll look that up. All right. How are judges?
But as for the other circumstantial evidence they used, the fact that he was having gay affairs because he claimed to be bisexual.
What the fuck?
Right? That has nothing... I mean, they were trying to prove motive, I guess, but people cheat on their significant others all the time and have happy relationships. That's a really, really common thing. I mean, that's why, we have such a high divorce rate, and we have well, I shouldn't say divorce rate, but the odds that your significant other has cheated on you are relatively high. If you look at it over the course of, let's say, 20 or 30 year relationships, this guy did it, I think he said 4 times in that amount of time. That's one relationship every 5 years for a guy that's bisexual. That's
just like he's blowing off steam or some shit.
Yeah, and they read out his emails and stuff, and he clearly was not having a relationship with these people. He was just fucking them. Right,
exactly.
He clearly said he loved his wife in those emails.
Well, and the deal, is like the, they found one of his prostitutes.
Yeah.
And the guy, he even testifies that, that a lot of times, he thought that a lot of the guys that he ended up with were actually straight, and they were just just seeing if they're gay or not,
yeah.
And, and that got me to thinking, if you're a person of means and you've done just about everything, I mean, there's people that get off on fucking, watching, rats get stepped on and shit. So, it's like some type of experimentation, just to see what the other side is like. I can see somebody, especially, somebody that's got a lot of money, man,
yeah.
And make something like that happen.
Well, I mean, so that, like, you wouldn't know that there's a lot of people out there that are like swingers and stuff, right?
Right.
But school teachers and stuff are swingers. The guy that worked on you at the hospital, maybe he's a swinger. The fucking counselor you had. These are all it's people's private life. And
exactly.
It doesn't really pertain to him murdering her.
No, what they were saying though is that the fact that he was, he was having these, sporadic, gay, trysts, that was proof that his marriage was unhappy, and that what everybody, even the kids, saw, was just a cheap veneer. Right? That they were just faking it to make it. And I guarantee you, man, that even Caitlin, the one that was turned against him, couldn't say that her mom hated the dude. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, not just that, but here's the other thing that sort of struck me. Later on, probably episode 8 or 9, they're going through some of his writing, right? And they're thinking that they've got him in a gotcha moment, because they're like, look, he wrote about it. He wrote about, having relationships with men in his books. He wrote about it. And I'm thinking, do you really think his wife never read any of his books?
Hello?
Like, do you think she didn't fucking know? Because there's no way she had no idea. Like, I'm sure. Look, you like every man. I look at porn, right? My girlfriend knows I look at porn.
Yep.
She's never witnessed it, but she knows. Like there's no getting around. Your significant other is gonna know about the types of things you're into.
Well, yeah, and it can even be helpful, in a marital situation where it's like, you don't have to get into details, but say, it's like you're married to somebody that, was never, like aces at giving blowjobs. or something, and and you see a porn where you see somebody that definitely knows what they're doing, right? You say, well, look, honey, check this out. And see if you can get some tricks off of this shit, right?
Pretty much.
And that sounds like I don't know. But
that's
I mean,
why I have my girlfriend watch twerking videos. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's like it's what you said earlier. It's what happens behind closed doors, man. It didn't really fucking matter. None of that shit. It was the staircase in Germany, and you take those two things away, man, and what have you got?
You've got
an accident.
No. You've got Dawn Driver. That's what you've got. That's all they had after you take those two things away.
Who was Dawn Driver?
Sorry, Dwayne. I don't know how to say his name.
Deaver.
The blood spatter.
Dwayne Deaver.
Dwayne Deaver.
Yeah, man. And he'll be coming up, y'all, and I'll point him out to you because he's a.
Oh, he was just up on the screen.
He's a humdinger. He
looks like Mr. Smithers but bald.
Yeah, he's bald. He's very smarmy. Very weak chin, just coming off as like I thought he was full of shit when I was seeing the original stuff. This is before I knew all the stuff that happens later on. I'm going, this dude don't know shit from Shinola. There's one scene, and it's fixing to come up, where they're like trying to get this one type of splat, and they keep doing it over and over again, and then the dude just says fuck it, and he puts a sponge down and does a dance on it. And it's like, holy shit. And then there's a scene later on where there's one blood spatter evidence that is really what the people relied on to put him away, and that was the shorts that he had on. There was one spot of blood on his shorts that had a certain splat pattern that would indicate it came from beneath, all right? And that was the one fucking spot on a whole pair of shorts that he had sat in her blood, so there was blood all over him, right? But that one little spot was the indication that he did it. And that's what really got him put away, man. And it turns out that there was a videotape of them faking that. And as soon as they got it, the chick like jumps up and runs out and does a dance. Holy shit, we made it work. And then it was implied to me later on that this is Deaver's right here. This dude, bald dude with the glasses, that they were having an affair, he and that Baker chick.
I mean, maybe, but
he's definitely the type that would. I mean, if you think of what type of person he would definitely use his office to get pussy. I mean, look at him.
Yeah, that's probably true. He
saying. He
doesn't look like he gets it for free. So, look. When it comes to him, I mean, I think we should probably talk about the fact that he eventually, all of his work got turned over in more than 200 cases, right? I forget what that one guy's name was, the guy that ended up going to prison in 1991 based off Dwiver's blood spatter, but he ends up, there's multiple cases.
His name was Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor, yeah,
yes.
He was released in 2010 after serving, I think it was
19 years.
Yeah, 19 years in prison, because they just decided he was guilty, man, and they
decided to make it look
exactly. They just said, man, he's guilty, and they made the evidence, fit. Him being guilty, and buddy, they just sent his ass away.
Yeah,
and that's what opened the Pandora's box. That's still fucking with this fucking Durham, North Carolina to this day. Because I was looking up. Let's see. This is from the Durham Let me see if I got the right one. Yeah, this is it. This is Durham News and Observer, okay? This is their biggest newspaper. As Peterson documentary debuts on Netflix, Durham braces for new attention and scrutiny. And it goes on to talk about the movie, and you know, well, actually, it's a documentary, you know, that's in 13 parts, and you know, it goes down and it talks about how, you know, it's putting the spotlight right back on, you know, all of this fucking. They said that there were over, between 1986 and 2002, there were 100 cases where the blood spatter alone was mishandled, and shit. And plus, there was a point where they moved all the evidence from one place to another place. And during that, they must have hired like an independent, like a company, or, you know, like somebody, you know, somebody's cousin.
No, they didn't. You know they didn't. You know they did that.
Check this out. Well, no, you know what I was thinking? I was thinking people was looking for dope.
Yeah,
maybe,
probably.
You know, because that's what I. That's, to be honest,
dope and money,
dope and cash, exactly. Yeah. Because they had all been ripped open and shit was mixed together. I mean, it was ridiculous, man. I don't know how that judge is still on the bench. I don't know, you know, because he prosecuted a bunch of these cases, and I'm sure he's the one that gave the order. You know. You know, we need to, in the South we need to hem this boy up, right?
Yeah, no, I just don't. Look, there was no way that anyone who looks at this objectively, based off the evidence that was given, could say without a doubt that, you know, these circumstantial things and this blood spatter was worth your time. You know, there were multiple people that could refute it. They had the Asian doctor in there.
Yeah, Henry Lee. I was going to say that. They had Dr. Werner Spitz and Henry Lee, man. They looked at it and they said, this is clearly an accident.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and if you look at the head, you know, it's really kind of graphic because they do show some of the pictures. They had to shave her head. And if the lacerations on the scalp were parallel A, and then there was one where it was a perfect 45-degree angle, and that just fits with the way the stair, you know, where the way I see somebody falling downstairs. Even if it's, you know, they trip and they fall backwards and go head over heels or tits over ass, you're gonna hit on the same spot in the same direction, you know, more than a couple of times.
Well,
and then at the bottom, when you stop, your head turns, and then boom, you know, there goes the angle.
Yeah, well, and not just that, but I think the thing that probably threw a lot of the jury was that there was so much blood, but the you know, there's a reason they tell you not to drink before you go and get a tattoo, and that's because you will bleed everywhere. You will bleed out parts of the dye. And if you were as drunk as she was, when she was a small woman and she was
0.07,
0.07, which is like barely under the legal limit to drive here,
right?
You know, and you fell, then you're gonna bleed out pretty quick because your blood's thin. Well,
and because head lacerations, they bleed a lot anyway.
A lot, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's like you shave your head. You know, I shave mine too, and man, I've bumped it a couple of times, and it bleeds like a motherfucker. You know,
for like 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and that's before I was on blood thinner. So yeah, man, Goat Man. All right,
what up, Goat Man?
Just say every time he walks in the house, we got to say, "Hey, man, I saw a movie that Goat Man was in last night. It's called Ghosts." Yeah. I'm just saying, it was either you or your son, okay? That's all I'm saying. No more to be said. So, okay.
Well, see, I saw a movie like that too, but it was called Black Sheep.
What was that? Witches? You know, where the goat was standing up on his legs and shit. Did you see that? Witch?
I did see Witches. Yeah, where they have the square feet and everything.
Yeah. No, the more recent one. It was called. I think it was called WYCH, or WYTCH, and it was I don't know. It was kind of artsy fartsy. You know, it was not a lot of dialogue, and it was a lot of tension and shit.
Do you mean the one that was two V's instead of a W?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
that one.
That one. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. The one where they had Billy, but he was Satan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, and you didn't know if the girl was the witch until the very end of it. And it was like, anyway, blah. On to the rest of this case. So, as you see, the court lasted quite a while. You know, the defense did their best job. You know, David Rudolph, I gotta say, you know, the dude, after this deal was over and it got the, you know, he gets convicted. Mr. Peterson, Mike Peterson gets convicted. You know, you can tell that Rudolph, man, his ass is kicked.
Yeah, but also fuck David Rudolph. Fuck that guy. Because he charged $850,000, not including all of the testing and stuff they were doing, right? And I don't know how much he makes a year, but that was for 5 months. That's it. 5 fucking months, and he fucking bumbled when it came to some things. Like, he should have made a much bigger stink about a lot of things that they were doing in that court. He should not have just sat back and let them mow over his client in that way.
Yeah, see, I didn't understand that either, man. It was almost like he had something going on with, you know, it was more like he was concerned with his relationship with these people, because there's scenes when he's alone with them and they're all joking and shit, right?
He's and I'm going, the prosecutor having a laugh,
right? And it's like, holy shit, man. And
well, not just that. Like, look, there's that part where he mishandles evidence, but at that point, I agree that he should have already done a DNA test and everything.
Yes.
So that, you know, that's not really his fault, because everyone was fucking touching it.
Yeah. You can look at her; she's not wearing gloves. You know, looking at what she's touching. Right now, but yeah, you're right. But I did think that Rudolph, you know, he was legit. Like, I think he thought, because based on the focus groups that they had done, that they were going to see the adoption of Martha and Margaret as being, you know, a larger, you know, that was going to play into their sympathies a lot more than it did.
Well, he didn't play it up. He
didn't play it up at all.
Yeah, he didn't play up the fact that they had gotten insurance money, and that insurance money had never, ever seen his own pockets. It had gone to his daughters.
Right.
Like, he never touched any of their money, which should say something on its own. You know, like, look, this guy paid to raise 2 children. Well,
and at the end, when he's indigent and shit, and he tells the dude, you know, he tells Mike Peterson, this is, look, I'm going to put you in touch with this guy. And it's like, you son of a bitch, man. You know, it's like you suck this dude dry. All right, this is what pissed me off about him, okay, is that this dude evidently gave David Rudolph every fucking penny he had. And then and then everything else went to the fucking state of North Carolina.
Yep.
Right? And
you can also believe that anything else he had got sued away from him by the
wrongful death, from the sisters,
from his sister who hated him. So yeah.
So he had to plead indigent, and you know, and in the end, you know, all right. So he gets put away, and he's in prison, man. He's fucking like, you know, he gets a life sentence in prison, and
so Johnny Hellcat.
Hey Johnny, I want to say, what's his name? So all right, the 2001 was the death. He was convicted in 2003. It was 2011, okay, when Rudolph was able to get him out and get a retrial, okay, and so that was what he spent, what, eight and a half years.
Well, he did, but you know, I don't think that I think that what he did was I don't know that he was there for the appeals or anything, you know.
Right, he didn't. Yeah,
because he said he was doing it pro bono in 2011, right?
Right.
Which means that he had to come back from somewhere to do the 2011 hearing where they had gotten new evidence, essentially.
I think he wherever the state capitol was, I think is where he lived.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing is that he, you know, coming back to help out with this case after the Dwyer thing popped up, that's notoriety for him. He gets credit.
In the end, though, he started figuring out that this documentary was going to come out in the United States, and he figured out that, holy shit, this is really going to make me look bad. Okay, he looks bad that he lost the fucking case, right? And then he kind of looked bad when he shoves him off to the redhead because the other guy got a stroke, and then for a couple years, and then he decides to come back, right?
Yeah, but he doesn't really even come back.
Yeah,
he just comes back to give him the fucking the plea of guilty.
Yeah, the Alford plea. And this has to do, an Alford plea in the state of North Carolina has to do with this something versus Alford, or state of North Carolina versus Alford. And basically what it says is that you're going to plead to a lesser term of, a lesser degree of guilty to just make the shit just stop, right? Because it's just going on too goddamn long. You know, I don't have any more money. You know, it's just like, fuck it.
You're essentially saying that you are not guilty, but you're pleading guilty because you cannot afford and no longer wish to pursue this in a legal fashion.
Yeah. Which tells me again that Rudolph is like got something going with the state. Because I would have tore those motherfuckers up. I would have put them all back on the Devers. I would have put that motherfucker on the stage. And all right, well, how many times did you fuck up this shit? You know, or what exactly did you do? You know, because you obviously you fudged the evidence because you've done it 100 times before. You know?
No. Here's the thing. Like, if he had gotten a retrial, no matter what, they pretty much would have won because you see the fact that all of these people had fucked up the evidence, they fucked up the blood spatter, they lied, they blatantly lied on stand multiple times. They had brought up things that didn't matter to the case, and you could see this all. And even the fact that they couldn't even use any evidence anymore because it had all been contaminated. That should tell you right there, that's an easy fucking win. That's a
no shit. It's a slam fucking dunk. Exactly. That's exactly what I was saying.
His bullshit reason for not representing the guy, it was an emotional thing for me. Fuck off. Fuck you and fuck off.
Well, I would say
$50,000.
Here's what I would do. Is I would have probably, he probably could have pleaded that, he had incompetent representation at this point.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? All right.
Yeah.
And I would have put them through the excruciating point of where they would have to throw the deal like, okay, look, we're going to make this go away because you're going to make us look like shit. And the judge himself said, I've already had 4 cases overturned because of this shit. Right?
Yeah.
And he didn't want any more. So that's why he pushed, Rudolph to go for that Alfred plea, which is bullshit.
Yeah, it's such, like, I don't know, the fact that, dude, $850,000 is a fuck ton of money in 2001. Think about that.
It's a fuck ton of money now.
It's a fuck ton of money now, but I just want you to think about this. In 2001, you could buy a house here in California for like $120,000 for a 3-bed, 2-bath house.
Depending on where, yeah.
Depending on where, you can, we're not talking L.A.
Beverly Hills.
We're talking, all of the rest of California, and you pretty much could. And that is now, in modern day, the inflation would be, the same house would be roughly around $350,000. So you're looking at, these people are taking $850,000 in 2001 that could buy you almost 8 houses. So,
Mm-hmm.
Like, holy fuck. That is a fuck ton of money. Why? Why would you not try your goddamn hardest to make sure your client doesn't go to jail?
There's 2 answers to that, man. And one of those answers is laziness, and the other is, he's got some kind of deal with the state, with the prosecution.
There had to have been, because they all knew each other.
Yep. Go ahead.
I don't know who did the jury selection, but how are you going to get people that can look at the evidence that was put out there and say, this, what was one of the comments? I didn't really like the Asian guy because I couldn't understand him.
Yeah.
How dumb are these people? Yeah. He's pointing at a blood spatter and saying, no, this was an accident. This was not a murder. How hard is that?
Right. Well, yeah, and he did he even did the little experiment about how blood, all he did was take a blood dropper and sling it while he was expressing the little bulb, right? And when you do that, it shows how blood pattern makes these little little fingers with like a comma on the end of it, right? And that's in the direction of where the blood is splattered. That's just how it works. And that's all he was showing them. I mean, it was a demonstration more than anything. It wasn't like he couldn't speak English or anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And when it came to the blood spatters, the fact that they didn't get, as a lawyer, I cannot believe that he couldn't get those thrown the fuck out, because the fact that there were multiple pictures that had blood spatters that were there and then not there, and then cleaned but not cleaned, and his client.
Well, the photograph. What about those fucking photographs, man? Where they admitted that there were imperfections in the film or in the paper that they used to. I mean, they were still using old school film and.
How can you even call that reliable?
Right, exactly. Dipping it in the liquid, it's like that old chemical method. They had digital cameras back then because the
2001. I had a digital camera.
And the white-haired dude that was the former cop that worked for Rudolph, he had one, and he was using it in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like
in 1986.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, there was a lot of things that just make no fucking sense other than this had to be a bunch of people that knew exactly where this guy was going, whether or not he did do a crime.
Right. And what's so bad about it, whether he did it or not, he didn't get a fair trial. He had to plead guilty in the end to make the shit go away. He doesn't have a pot to piss in. I mean, he's probably got some kind of deal. He's probably writing a book now.
Oh yeah.
But I mean,
if he didn't have a deal before Netflix published this, he has a deal now.
They're coming after him, because this is too ridiculous, man. And maybe that's what's going to happen, is that he's going to fucking tear him a new one, because somebody really needs to pay more than he had to pay. It just didn't. 8 years. I mean, you can tell. Like, you can look at him. We're looking at scenes of him, in 2011, when he'd been there 8 years.
Yeah.
Right. So this is fucking 6 years ago.
I want to know how the fuck Dwyer is not in jail right now.
Hello? Why is he still walking? And he's sitting on a bench, ruling on cases. I mean, for fuck's sake, man. You talk about fruit of the poisonous tree, man.
I'm talking about Dwyer, the blood spatter guy. How is he not in jail?
No, exactly. No, yeah, he just gets fired, man. And he's probably got fucking state, benefits, and he's getting his getting all that fucking, all that 401, the whole pension, the whole 9 yards.
You know that he's got an IMDb that lists all of the things he's been in, and there are multiple ones that have they've used him as a blood spatter expert on their shows, like Court TV and stuff.
Well, he didn't get fired until 2011.
Yeah.
So,
but even then, even past 2011.
Yeah, exactly. So even if they knew, so the deal with the guy came up, right? The we're looking at right now. His case came up in, I think it was 2010, right? Mm-hmm. But it had come up before that, and that's when they found out that the blood evidence was shitty, and that the blood spatter expert is you can't his word is you can't count on him, because he fucking fabricates evidence.
Pretty much.
He should be in prison, actually.
He should.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing if you make a mistake. Justice is not perfect. It's shitty when that happens. And if you make a mistake and one guy goes to jail for 20 years, well, fuck, you fucked up. And maybe send him $1,000, tell him how fucking sorry you are, let him sue the state, and be done with it. But he did this in over 200 cases. Like, holy fuck. He's just literally fucking people out of justice over and over and over again.
Right. And there were notes, like, I can't remember what the note was on the blood spatter, but it was like, send this to that Deaver dude and the brown chick. Make sure it gets to them. Right? When it got the lab is like, I don't know where it is.
Of evidence.
Right. Raleigh is the capital.
Yeah. Well, so what you're talking about is where the evidence, aka like DNA results and stuff like that, they would be slated to go to Dwyer, who is also supposed to then pass them on to the defense in any case. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what the test is for. It just matters that they had ran it and they paid for it, and therefore they have to reveal that to the defense. No matter
exactly. Everything that they've got. And see, they weren't, and that's what I was talking about Discovery. In Discovery, you have to give them everything. I mean, you know, you can't just leave this out and that out because, you know, it's not going to help your case. I mean, shit. If we played like that, then everybody would get off. You know?
Pretty much.
Or, you know, I mean, God damn. I just, you know, when we get to, you know, when I got to this part of the thing, you know, I'm like, because, you know, I thought it was a 10-parter, right? So I stopped at episode 8 going, okay, 2 more and I'm out, okay? And of course, there were 5 more. And when it got to this part, I'm going, holy shit. Yeah. It was just, and I kept saying, holy shit, over and over and over again. I was just getting more and more angry that this dude, you know, I don't, you know, whether he's guilty or not doesn't mean anything. You know, even if he's guilty, we don't know it, you know, and the right thing has not been done. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's about getting justice. Yeah. It's about justice, isn't it?
Well, what is it saying? It's better to let one guilty man go free than 10 innocent men be incarcerated?
Exactly, or die. I mean, shit. Or die. You know, there's death penalties in certain states, man. You know, now you think about that, and it's like, goddamn. You got dudes like that Devers fucker, and it's like, you know, what do you do?
Well, okay. So I would say, you know, based off what Michael Peterson had said, that this was just this area, except for the fact that Netflix also has another series. I forget what it's called, but it's about a guy who they suspect of murder as well, and he has a super low IQ, and basically the same thing happens to him.
Right.
And so there's a common theme when it comes to justice, and I just want to say, in my personal life, I have had sort of the same thing happen to me once or twice. Not on a criminal level, but when it comes to like you know, lawsuits and stuff, there's clearly you know, one side that gets picked, and then they're just right. You know,
and there's no way out of it. You know,
no way out of it. It doesn't matter what you do. For me, in my case, I had a car that was parked in front of my house, and somebody hit it and drove away. Right, but their car stalled out about 30 yards away, and they got out and ran away. The guy who owned the car said that he was in the hospital at the time, so he couldn't have been driving it. But in my state, the person driving it doesn't matter. It's the fact that he owns the car, so he's responsible, right? The judge tells me, you better find out who was driving the car. And that was it. That was the end of my case. They dismissed it, and I'm like, oh, fucking great.
Was this small claims court?
Small claims court, yeah. It's just ridiculous. There's if anyone has the illusion that the justice system is actually there to perform as it says and create a more just world, just throw that out the window. It's
well,
not.
You know, no, I'm going to put it out there that I believe that there are people that, you know, there are cells of righteousness, for lack of a better word, that are out there, you know, and you just got to find them. And it's a needle in a haystack.
I would agree with that. I would say that there are cells of people that believe in justice, that really want to have a justice system that works. But the problem is that they are few and far between, and they are, you know, working in a system in which you have quotas. If you want to become prosecutor, you got to become, if you want to become lead prosecution, you got to become friends with all the judges. You got to have good numbers. Good numbers is not a good thing for justice, because justice doesn't fucking care about numbers.
Right,
and the whole cares about what's right and wrong.
Well, and having rulings overturned. See, that's what sucks about fucking appeals courts, because overturning another judge's rule, is like it's just like.
It's a big no-no.
It's a big no-no, man, and it's just.
Oh, well, that guy's my friend. I don't want to piss him off.
Yeah, exactly, man. It's like, let's find something, to make this go away, which is bullshit. If the person, if they need an appeal, and there's. There's reasons there to do the appeal, and they're legal. The appeal should be heard and done, and it is in appellate courts, especially, and then you get into circuit courts and the political power, like the Ninth Circuit or the Third Circuit. It's like both of them, polar opposites, man. It scares the shit out of me, to be honest, because
triggered.
Just slightly, man.
I know, man. It should trigger everyone.
It should trigger everybody, because, man, it's just even a guy that's filthy fucking, well, not filthy rich, but I mean, he's what would you say he was? Upper middle class.
I'd say he's filthy fucking rich for where he lived.
That was a nice fucking house, man.
Well, no. I mean, for the location he was in.
See, that's you. When you look at it that way, he was rich, of course.
Yeah, he was rich as fuck.
Yeah, in the South, that dude is a rich man. That's just how it is. And I think that politics had a lot to do with this, and that was never brought into it, because I think that Rudolph was terrified.
With that being said, do you think he did it?
It doesn't matter, because he didn't get a fair shot at justice. It doesn't matter whether he did it or not. I don't know. To be honest with you, based on the evidence, and I don't think he did it.
Yeah, based off the evidence presented in this documentary, I should say.
Yeah.
Because who knows? To be fair, the documentary was biased one way, because obviously they were only on one side of the defendant's side. So,
yeah, but I mean, what were they going to film on the other side? Them saying, "No, you got to throw that out," and it's like, let's go to,
exactly.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
that would have been even worse, and it would have leaned more in his direction, in my opinion.
Well, by what I mean is, right, that would have just made him look fucking innocent altogether.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, I'm trying to remember what the other one is called. But the other documentary, they sort of take it from what would be publicly perceived, rather than inside.
Yeah, well, see, and that's one of the things that bothered me about this was it was so like reality TV. It was like we're inside this family. And you could tell at times that they weren't being completely themselves. You could tell that there were, the daughters and the sons were just like going, we need the cameras to go away because this is fake as fuck,
Yeah.
And you could tell that there was that tension of like not being able to just relax and go, God damn it, and scream and throw shit, because I know I would.
Well, I mean, he cracked a couple of times there where he was just like, okay, I'm done. I have to sit down. I can't.
But did you see him though explode, right? To that kind of anger where you would need to murder a human being.
Here's the thing. I think that he didn't look, I don't honestly, I don't think that the prison mattered to him that much. I think it was just sad his wife was dead, and that he knew exactly how this was going to go. You could tell from day one that he was sitting there, and all his lawyer did was really give him optimism and hope that maybe he wasn't going to go to jail, and then he fucking ended up in jail anyway. By the way, that other documentary is called Making a Murderer, and it's about Stephen Avery.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and that article that I was referring to earlier refers to that series. And it's it's a similar situation, and but the guy's dirt poor, and
he's he pretty much has nothing, and he's also pretty dumb.
Well,
we're not talking average dumb.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, with this, I mean, what would you give it, Irate? Out of 10 for this documentary, as a documentary, what would you give it?
All right, as a documentary, there was so much shit documented. I mean, it was just detail. If you love detail, and for me, it was a slow burn, and it could have been put together. I think that they could have cut, because that they cut out one part, right? The part about the owls and shit.
I did not know about that.
Did you read about that shit?
No, I didn't read about it.
Yeah. In the original 8-parter, there was a whole episode devoted to this theory that it could have been an owl that made those scratches on her head, right?
What the fuck?
It was the family making a Hail Mary, right? And so I did get triggered, Easy Q. So well, I can't say that, but anyway, I love you, baby. What was I going to say? The owl.
Yeah, I can see why they cut that out.
Yeah, so if they could cut that shit out, they could have cut it down. Just like when they went and they exhumed the body, instead of the excruciating flight out to Germany, they could have just showed the highlights from the Germany trip, right? And not the thing with the little the little beer parade that they had with the drummers, and then the comment about I was thinking about what happened in 1942, and if they were guarding my relatives or some shit. I get it. You're a Jew, man. I got it.
Well, and the fact that he talked about how he hated Germany and he wasn't going back. I'm like, dude, come on, you can't blame everyone in Germany for that. That's
exactly
that also happened 70 years ago. So
it's kind of like the slavery thing, man. It's it's time to get over that shit. Mm-hmm. It could have been cut down. I think it did a great exploration into the whole. The last 5 episodes, man, really made it worthy. It was just like fucking. It was the court of public opinion, right? Is the message. Is that once you've got the court of public opinion, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter if that evidence from Germany got in, it was out there, right? And the people in the jury were going to hear about that, right? It didn't matter about the gay shit. It was gonna get to the jury one way or another. I think that's why maybe it's a good thing to sequester juries.
Dude, they need to here's the thing. It wouldn't have mattered if they sequestered the jury, because the story broke before the case started. So you already had what's her name, Nancy Grace, telling everyone that he had killed his wife already before any evidence was revealed.
That's right.
So good luck. Most likely that made it to KQ, whatever local news station they have, right?
It's W. It's here on this side of the Mississippi.
Oh, okay. W. Yeah. Whatever local news station probably reported on it the night it happened because he's a book writer.
Mm-hmm.
And then then you probably had everyone tuning into the court TV that Nancy Grace did, and this is all like 5-6 days before he even starts his case.
Right.
So good luck. Your jury's going to be fucked either way. It doesn't matter.
Yep. And what's really good though is court TV is pretty much dead now, and it's like investigation discovery. Which is a good thing. The last big court case that was focused on like this was the Jodi Arias murder case, and I think they got that right, to be honest. But I was a court freak, Casey Anthony, blah blah blah, the whole name, Top Mom, blah blah blah. All right, so
well,
give it
real quick.
I got to grade this motherfucker. Shit, okay. Lengthwise, I got to give it a 5. God damn. It was long. I don't know, man. It was pretty good. I'm going to give it a 6.5, 7. If you can make it through the through the 13 episodes, I think you'll be happy on the other side of it. So I don't know. It was.
Yeah. I got to agree with you. I mean, I think that the first 5 episodes are super slow, and they should have done something to speed them up a little bit, cut them down. I don't know, but once you had like the episodes where it got really close to him getting his whether or not he's guilty or not, then that's when it really got interesting, and that's when you start to see a bunch of cracks. And then even afterward, that probably the last 3 or 4 episodes really pulled me in and kept me watching.
Exactly.
So I'm going to even give it a higher score than you. I'm going to give it a 7.5.
Okay.
And the one reason that I'm giving it that is because the documentary maker did not make the documentary about them. Because that is the biggest pet peeve I have about documentaries. When you can see the guy filming it and he's pushing the narrative rather than letting the narrative be spoken by what's actually going on.
Right. No, absolutely. That was, my big complaint with the French, with Canal, production team is that fucking music. For fucking Jesus Christ, the goddamn violins and shit. Oh my God. Oh, it's horrible. Music, I give it a -3. Just saying.
Amazing.
All right, yeah, it pissed me off. It really did. But shit, so this looks like we got this second True Crime Week is in the bucket. Another one.
I think we accidentally went over an hour because we were having so much fun.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the way this is designed, man. And
what's next week?
Next week, I don't know. We had talked about, and this just got released on Netflix. It was weird because I brought it up when UI and Failure had looked at that Bad Batch. And I said, if you want to see a good movie that touches on this kind of thing, is the movie called The Rover with Guy Pearce in it and Robert Pattinson. And and sure enough, man, it's available. Was made available like 2 weeks ago. So it's on Netflix, and I talked to you about it, and we said let's do it.
Let's do it.
So, and then of course. Anime week, we got Godzilla Part 2.
Godzilla!
But yeah, man.
Don't you mean fat blastoids?
Yeah, there's funny. We'll talk about that shit later. But they're making a movie. Anyway, I don't know. I think they might have used shit from the movie in this thing. But yeah, the Rover. is going to be next week's, and then Godzilla after that. So, but I guess it's time for us to say goodbye.
I got a pee, so let's get out of here.
Give out your goodbye, bro, and I'll mute you and you get the fuck on. Get peace, pee.
Thug life, fam.
All right, and this is Irate Prostate out for another hot takes. Just want to say, cyberspace cadets, it's always a pleasure to serve you. And if you've got any ideas or anything, you just hit me on a DM. All right, it's Irate Prostate, OUT. Later.